vaccines. We've all gotten them at some point in our lives. But what are vaccines? Years ago, to me, they were just the smell of sanitizer, medical alcohol, and needle sticking and crying of boys and girls all around me. And of course, that creepy nurse sitting behind that piece of glass, knocking that needle and seeing that slip and drop of liquid get out that needle top. Horrifying. And considering that, it's not surprising that a lot of people are against vaccines, is it? But what actually are vaccines, and what do they do, and how wonderful they are to make it worthy of being through that creepy little process? A vaccine can actually confer an active immunity against a specific harmful agent, aka a virus, bacteria, or toxin. And once stimulated by the vaccine, the antibody-producing cells of our body, called B cells or B lymphocytes, remain sensitive, and they're ready to respond to the agent should it ever again try to enter the body. A vaccine may also confer passive immunity by producing antibodies or lymphocytes already made by an animal or human donor. Vaccines are usually administered by injection, but some are given orally or even nasally. Vaccines applied to mucosal activities, such as those lining the gut or nasal passages, seem to stimulate a greater antibody response and maybe even more effective than other routes of administration. Now, the truth is, vaccines help the body develop immunity to a certain type of disease by developing and making antibodies. You ask how? Vaccines help develop immunity by imitating an infection. This type of infection, however, almost never causes an actual illness, but it does cause the immune system to produce antibodies. Sometimes after getting a vaccine, the imitation infection can cause minor symptoms that belong to this disease. Such minor symptoms are very, very normal and should be seen and expected as the body builds immunity responses. Once the imitation infection goes away, the body is left with a supply of memory, remembering how to produce specific antibodies and fight the disease. Interesting, isn't it? What's even more interesting is vaccines' origins actually reach all the way back into ancient China and India. It is said that the first vaccination process appeared in India and China called variolation. It was also practiced in Turkey, Africa, the Americas, and Europe. In Turkey, practitioners would expose people to a less serious version of smallpox by making incisions into a healthy person's skin. They would then inoculate it with pus from smallpox sores. Researchers believe that these practices were employed as far back as 200 BCE. There are historic records from China and India that describe early smallpox treatments and vaccines. The people used a method that began with grinding up smallpox scabs. This ground up matter was then blown into people's nostrils, and this ground up, another technique was actually to scratch a smallpox sore, and then use that same knife to scratch it into a healthy person's skin to imitate an actual infection. The first modern vaccine was introduced by British physician Edward Jenner, who in 1796 used the cowpox virus to confer protection against smallpox, which is a related virus to cowpox, in humans. Prior to that use, however, the principle of vaccination was applied by Asian physicians who gave children dried crusts from the lesions of people suffering from smallpox to protect against the disease. While some developed immunity, others developed the actual disease, which is pretty creepy. Jenner's contribution was to use a substance similar to, but safer than, smallpox to enter the body and to confer immunity. He thus exploited the relatively rare situation in which immunity to one virus confers protection against another virus. In 1881, French microbiologist Louis Pasteur demonstrated immunization against anthrax by injecting sheep with a preparation containing attenuated forms of bacillus. that caused the disease. 4 years later, he developed a protective suspension against rabies. So, vaccines are a helpful part of health, life, and yes, of course, everybody's childhood. Alright, that's all for today. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye!